Hello MJ traders, want to talk a little bit about psychology and understanding how markets work because it's not just technical analysis and it's not just fundamentals of what's going on. A lot of it is psychology, and the more we can understand it, the better positioned we can be to capitalize on the different shifting psychology in markets as we see it play out. So I'm going to talk about the USMJ sector because right now there's a lot of confused retail traders out there. If you haven't been trading long, you're looking at this and you're saying, USMJ just gave us great earnings numbers and now we're dropping 5 to 10+%. That makes no sense. What's going on? This is not right. And we need to try and help these people understand what's going on and how these markets work. So it's almost the same thing as when we ran up in Canada to the first day of sales. You get the hype build up and the market prices in the known event, and then you get to a point where there's literally no one left to buy. You think of scales of supply and demand of shares. And as we're running up into these events, the demand for shares is absolutely outweighing supply. And then the closer to the event you get, it more and more evens out. And then shortly after the event, or maybe right before the event, it depends, it flips and there's more supply of shares and there's less buyers because everybody's been hearing about the event and everybody that's heard about it has already bought in. In this instance, USMJ had a ton of short-term catalysts. It was great. We had the election build up. We had the presidency. We still have the Senate that we're waiting on, although we're not holding our breath there for the Democrats to get the Senate. We had individual states legalizing recreationally. That went really well. All of the states passed. And then we had earnings, and we had great reaction to earnings. That's a lot of really short-term catalysts in a row, and we got to the point where after the election, we knew that the sector was going to give us good earnings. We didn't know how good, but we know these earnings are going to be good, and that is a feeling around the MJ sector in the US that has been the case for the last couple quarters. So it gets priced in. We know that there are going to be good earnings. Now, we had an example where Cresco Labs really beat their expectations, and that allowed it to stay green a little bit longer. I believe it was Trulieve where right where they reported, we dropped right in response to that. And again, it's not because the market's disappointed. It's just literally there's a point where there is nobody left to buy in the short term. Fundamentals don't matter in the short term. It is technical analysis and supply and demand of shares, and now we're consolidating in response to that. It's the exact same thing that happened last quarter, and you can see it coming to a certain degree. So it's the kind of scenario where I personally take my profit leading into the election, and I know worst case scenario, I'm going to leave money on the table, and I'm going to miss out on profit. I'm not going to give any of my profit back. And then we see the scenario where we're pulling back, and now I'm all in cash, and I'm ready to buy this consolidation and scale in. And there's a number of things that we need to be watching. We need to be watching what the S&P 500 is doing. Let's look at this tweet from 9 days ago. Don't be surprised if U.S. marijuana stocks consolidate on great earnings like last quarter. We are in a priced-in environment. Who is left to buy after the votes, election, and knowing earnings are going to be great? And we can certainly expect dip buyers. So one thing to note is last time we had earnings, we sold off on the earnings reaction, and we started consolidation for about a week or two. And then the S&P 500 consolidated for a month. And the U.S. MSO's consolidation was then magnified to the downside. And we all remember we were thinking, are we really not going to run heading into this election? And the bulls just had zero momentum. And it obviously shifted in a very big way. But it was prolonged, magnified consolidation based on what the S&P 500 was doing. We now have the same setup where it could go either way. It could go the same thing as last quarter, where we see the start of USMJ consolidating right now, and SPY is still right under its all-time high. So if for the next 2 to 3 weeks, SPY were to consolidate, USMJ would pull back another 10 to 20%, in my opinion. If the S&P 500 stays strong and hits a new all-time high in the next week or two, then we could see bull flags form on these weekly timeframes and have it be very brief consolidation. In my opinion, in the absence of short-term catalysts, and again, short-term talking 2 to 4 weeks out, it's going to be the S&P 500 correlation that is the most significant factor to price movement, in my opinion, unless, of course, we were to see some kind of, big surprise news release that the market was not anticipating, which is always a possibility, but not necessarily a probability. So the way that you approach things, the more seasoned trader is going to, number one, understand this concept. A new trader, it's going to not make any sense at first until they see it enough times that it starts to click as to how this is how the game works. But the newer trader is going to be emotionally tied to their positions, and they're going to respond. Let's just go back to this tweet. They're going to respond to this tweet by saying, but what about these numbers? And the growth is there. It's we're going to see this sector grow, and the next earnings are going to be even better. And they're going to list all these fundamental reasons as to why we should not consolidate. But again, all of those fundamental reasons are not short-term catalysts. We're looking a few months out, and the market has to react to something in the meantime. They're also going to look at this tweet, and they're going to say, you sold your positions. You don't have any positions. You're trying to cause fear so you can buy back in cheaper. And again, that's their egos being attached emotionally to their position to think that I'm, this big bad short and I'm running a short group and we want these prices to crash. When in reality, this is me saying, hey, newer traders who may not be used to this, don't be surprised if this were to happen. Don't panic. Don't sell your positions. Just be aware that you may need to sit through weekly consolidation at a period where you otherwise might not have anticipated that weekly consolidation to take place. And if you have a little seed of knowing that that's a possibility, then maybe you are able to stick to your game plan and not react emotionally when that consolidation takes place. So that's just a little bit of a rant. And now we're going to look at the charts and what to expect as far as technical analysis is concerned for the sector from here. So we're going to look at Canadian names as well. And right now, CGC is in a tightening daily range. And we've got our high, low, lower high, and anything above 2253 is a higher low. If I wanted to be an aggressive bull, I'm looking for a play off of that level. But I personally am not interested in being an aggressive bull because we have not consolidated on the weekly time frame since 1383. It's been a higher low every single week since then. So I would rather be looking for a weekly higher low if I'm going to be comfortable. Doesn't mean we won't hold that support. And we're also very correlated to IIPR and to actually QQQ and the NASDAQ. Let's just compare those charts really quick. There's IIPR, climax 2 Mondays ago, low, lower, high, scouting that higher low. CGC, climax 2 Mondays ago, same thing. And let's go QQQ, climax 2 Mondays ago, very similar charts. So that tells me that there is definitely correlation to the broader market going on. Shout out to Betting Bruiser on Twitter. He put out a tweet about a half hour in advance talking about how Ontario is going to be closing some retail locations. And then that announcement came, but I shorted on that news. Essentially, I saw the double top at the high of yesterday, 24.15. So that's enough for me to see that tweet that negative news may be incoming. And I don't even care how negative it is for CGC. It's just a headline reaction that people will react to if that is indeed true. But I don't trade on rumors, so that rumor alone wouldn't be enough. But then I have that double top right there, and then I can go high conviction on a short because my price level is right there, and that backs up the play off the rumor, so to speak. So ended up getting a day maker. Shout out to Brock in our chat room who posted what Betting Bruiser was talking about and ended up with a nice 40-cent pullback or so. And of course, the S&P 500 weakness into the end of the day helped as well. So tightening daily time frame, we would have to break 2253 next week for weekly consolidation to be underway. APHA, big break of 629 and 644. I'm very impressed that the bulls were able to go straight from that much consolidation into a higher high, and it was the increasing bull volume that allowed for that to happen. Topping out for now, anything above 518 is a daily higher low. Tons of space for the bulls to remain strong. Certainly still resistance in this area, but a lot of space for this daily uptrend. Daily inside bar currently, if we were to get to hourly oversold conditions on further downside next week, I would be watching for a potential entry on that hourly oversold, knowing we're looking for a daily higher low. VFF has definitely been getting some attention. It's a little too toppy for me to have any interest in any entries up here as well. Again, looking for daily consolidation. I would love for hourly oversold conditions when looking for that daily higher low, and we're nowhere near that. So that's how I prepare for a trade. I watch this trade and say, if we pull back on the daily, if we see hourly RSI oversold, I will take that trade. If we don't, I won't. And maybe I'll miss gains to the upside. I'll be trading something else, and I won't be thinking twice about it. Set the criteria of what has to happen for the trade to come to you for you to be in control of that trade. As far as resistance is concerned, VFF, we've got 833, and it was a key break on the monthly time frame by getting a 704 and a lot of volume behind that break. Next clear resistance is up at 890, on the weekly. That's it. Cron, so here's it doing the same thing as CGC and IIPR. We're looking for a daily higher low compared to 663. We got our high of 2 Mondays ago, low of the pullback in response to that, lower high, and trying for the higher low. So again, an aggressive bull is making a play off of that daily support, and a patient bull is looking for weekly consolidation and a higher low. ACB and TLRY are in the same boat. Definitely the weaker of the sector. And what we're looking for is a bounce on the daily to try and get some follow through. That being said, we're not holding our breath for ACB. We've seen this playbook before, and it's even weaker than last time. Massive bull move, massive pullback, but then a massive bounce right after it. We don't have that bounce right now. And the bulls are going to have to get over 762 for that bounce to get going. But you know there's a lot of bears just waiting to short a lower high up wherever we get to. As far as support is concerned, 659 and 642, the bulls are attempting to build a base of support. They're playing defense, but they're not doing anything to go on offense right now. TLRY is very similar to that. We dropped to a clear lower low yesterday, significant bounce today, but we need a clear hourly trend change. And you could say we got it. So a little higher low and higher high, bull volume surged in, and next resistance level that stands out to me, 750s and 760s essentially. Same thing, we're definitely looking for a lower high on the daily, but a better positioning with the strong close at the end of the day. GRWG on the US side, very impressive to get this much follow through day after day on that new all-time high. Every single day is a higher low and higher high, except for today. So that makes it look like we're about to roll over into daily consolidation, which again wouldn't be a big deal, and again would be the back burner trade. If you don't know what I mean when I say that, Google back burner chart, guys, and you'll see a video specifically about it. But we'll be watching for first hourly oversold conditions if daily consolidation gets underway, and my favorite is when first hourly oversold aligns with the daily 12-period EMA to give me confidence scaling into that entry. Plenty of space for the daily higher low on GRWG. IIPR is tightening up. Aggressive bulls are either using 148.79 support from this week or 144.41, the last daily higher low. But again, it's very similar to Cron and CGC and QQQ with our high, low, lower high, higher low. Tightening range likely to break within the first couple of days of next week. Just a reminder, next week is holidays in the US, closed Thursday, half day Friday. That's definitely going to have an impact on volume. CURLF, daily downtrend confirmed. So this was the canary in the coal mine. And I saw the weakness in CUR in Curaleaf, and I was wondering, are we seeing it pull back so much harder than its peers because we have 11 million shares unlocking between now and the end of the year? And Curaleaf definitely has a bit more of a steady, slow drip of unlocking shares than its peers do. And that doesn't mean dilution. That means increased in float and potential increase in supply of shares if those unlocked shares are sold. So they're already calculated into the market cap and the outstanding shares, but they are locked up and they are not a part of the supply of shares, and that could change. So this volume is the real deal as far as the pullback. You cannot deny that. That is not what the bulls want to see on healthy consolidation. It's a bit extreme. So we got a daily higher low, lower high, lower low. Sweetie Pants is in the building. So we have weekly consolidation underway, and I'm watching the weekly 12-period EMA. I did make an initial small scale-in entry today at 960, and that's because the hourly RSI was oversold and the 4-hour RSI was just getting to oversold. Maybe a little bit aggressive, but very small positions for me on the OTC and USMJ, and very slow scaling in. Because again, my target for everybody is weekly EMA support ideally. And I'm also, like I said in the intro, keeping in mind that if SPY were to start consolidating, it's going to magnify the pullback. So very slowly easing into positions on this consolidation. TCNNF, that volume is for real. So that is the highest volume day that we've seen in the last 2 months. And it overshadows any bull volume day that we've seen since then. So again, we have to call it like we see it. I am bullish the sector. I'm bullish the long term here. But technically speaking, these high volume pullbacks on Curaleaf and Trueleaf We're going to look at its peers, which are different. These are red flags initially, which just to me means be patient. We could pull back further than people are expecting to look for these weekly higher lows. Anything over 1670 is a weekly higher low on TrueLeave here. Weekly 12 period EMA support is 2250. The account I've got open right now is delayed 15 minutes, so this is the market closing right now, 15 minutes in hindsight. But we're closing weak, and I would not be surprised for further consolidation next week based on what the S&P 500 is doing. I made an initial entry in TCNNF here, and it was when we got hourly RSI in the teens. I said, all right, enough's enough. I'm making my first entry. Entered at 24.80, sold at 24.99. That gives me a break even on what I have remaining at 24.61, which is the low of the day and which makes me really comfortable because I then freed up half of the cash of my first scale-in position. And again, I got plenty of cash for scaling into USMJ weekly consolidation, and I'm going to do so very slowly. So the position size that I have right now is just fractions of what I do as far as day trading positions. We'll go back and look at the weekly time frame last time we consolidated. There are things that we can learn from that and clues we can watch for. Significant pullback from the high, bounce for a daily lower high. If we keep pulling back here, bears are going to be waiting for the daily lower high to enter short. GTBIF, pulling back significantly. Still in a daily uptrend as far as I'm concerned. I would call anything above 1465 a daily high or low, so I'm going to be watching for something along these lines as far as how the daily chart's going to shape up. This daily chart looks more like that last time for CRLB here. No, it was TrueLeave. Big move up, big pullback, and then a solid daily bounce. So big move up, big pullback, and we will be watching for that solid bounce. Again, looking at the weekly time frame, consolidation could just be starting. If the S&P 500 rips to all-time highs over the next couple weeks, these could be bull flags, but I'm going to be more cautious because, again, if I'm going to make a mistake, it's going to be leaving money on the table. It is not going to be giving money back. So I'm going to be cautious and patiently scaling in. I'm interested in all four of the major names, but I have only established small starters in CRLB and TrueLeave. CRLBF is holding on the best because it had the biggest surprise beat on its earnings. Still in a daily uptrend, still holding the daily 12 period. Bulls are just fine at this point. Haven't even really started daily consolidation. And the weekly chart is a bearish reversal candle, but haven't started weekly consolidation. And when we do, we'll look for a higher low compared to 673. Do not lose sight of the fact that Cresco Labs has a lot of resistance overhead here that these other names don't have. And if I look at this 2-month time frame, just to condense it down a little bit, and you say, what is the most likely scenario? I say equilibrium. We're looking for that lower high, and then we're going to look for a pullback into a higher low. And that's because of the amount of space within this range. And the other names are not similar in that regard, which is why Cresco Labs has always been, it's always been the 3 and then Cresco Labs right behind them as far as how I have been treating them over the last 6 months. And it's because of the size of that pullback and the size of the overhead resistance remaining. HRVSF, this is an easy one for bears. Obviously, if we break $2, then the bears are going to get squeezed a bit. But as long as $2 is this brick wall of resistance, bears are going to keep playing off of it. If we drop down and break 170 support, we confirm a daily downtrend, and we confirm weekly consolidation is then underway. And again, same thing. Look at how much overhead resistance there is here. This monthly chart does not look anything like its peers. Technicals will always override fundamentals for me, especially in this space. I was dead wrong about IAN, looking for it to be a potential longer-term hold. I took a solid fat loss on it, but I knew to cut that loss because of the charts and because of the technicals, because it kept saying to us, red flag, I'm way weaker than my peers. Why is that the case? We can point to different things. In hindsight, it's easier to point to those things, but in the moment, all I had to go off of was, I don't know why, but it is, and that's good enough for me, and I'm bailing, and I'm eating my loss, and it would have been very ugly if I did not do that. That allows me, in this kind of bullish environment that we just saw, to make back those losses and then more. If I was still holding it, I'd probably still be red overall in USMJ in 2020. TRSSF, still strong as well. shaping up for the potential of a daily head and shoulders. 710 is the most important support. And if we hold 710, we'll be watching for the potential of a lower high compared to 820. And then if we rolled over, that would confirm the daily downtrend. Weekly chart, definitely due for consolidation, but again, lots of space for that weekly high or low. So from here, I will be building positions. I will be staying small and cautious. If the S&P 500 starts giving me red flags, I will cut my positions real quick, knowing that this OTC sector that is subject to what the broader market is doing can absolutely drop further than you think it can, regardless how fundamentally bullish it is. Again, if the S&P 500 stays strong, which it is entirely possible happens, then we'll look for bull flags on the weekly time frame here. I hope you're well. Congrats on the gains for the bulls over the last couple of months, and we'll continue to periodically check in as the situation develops. Have a good weekend. So I'm out of end of video content here. We're going to go back into the archives. This is from 11 years ago. The original video is like 45 minutes long. I've edited it down into about 10 or 12 minutes, cutting out all the illegal activities. But essentially it was sophomore year of college, and watched Into the Wild and was inspired and just said, all right, we're going to Yellowstone. I'm going, whatever break we had, who's coming with me? So a few of my buddies jumped on board. We took a car 36 hours straight to get there. We went into the backwoods for a week. We did a week-long hike, and we made so many mistakes. We were so dumb, but it was so much fun. We didn't bring anywhere near enough food. I went into the backcountry of Yellowstone. We were hiking 6 to 8 miles a day, and I brought a backpack. I didn't even have a camping backpack. We didn't bring anything in terms of sleeping mats, and we had a tent that fits 4 people, and it was 4 of us men. So we were literally cigar-shaped, 4 of us in this tent, and we ran out of, we were hiking on fumes. Essentially, we had a ramen noodles pack every night to be looking forward to, and we're really lucky to have made it out alive. So here is the PG-13 version, PG version of Yellowstone Trip. Let's see, at that point in time, I was 20 years old. I wasn't even 21 yet. Maybe just 21. Here we go.
Oh, there it is.
Good day.
Mac and I are about to shred this. Dan, you just pop yourself out that top window there.